And just like that, we have finally made it to the end. What's up, guys? Pencil here, and here we're going to do a breakdown / review for chapter 268 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as finale, but in the official translation it's known as Settling Matters. But like, I think John translated this chapter. I wouldn't be shocked if John translated this chapter. But still, a lot has happened. Quite literally in this chapter, like a lot has happened to the point where I don't think I could talk about all in one review, so I made an entire separate video talking about at least the pacing of this chapter. But, of course, we have so much to talk about. And luckily enough, unlimited time. But let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into it. Heading me, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? The guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me, and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, it took a while. It took a while. It took approximately 45 chapters. But we've gotten to the end of Ryomen Sukuna, the king of curses. And the real proper end, presumably, at least based on what this chapter says. And I do want to talk about that. I want to talk about a whole bunch of things. So let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right into it. Let me get the Sukuna voice real quick. How will you be able to maintain yourself? How will you ever be able to face the world again? You had your body stolen by me, and your sister was slain, and you refused help. Right, the boy you saved slaughtered lots of people. Just give up. You'll never be able to live a normal life. So stay quiet and let me handle things. It was John. Gosh darn it, I knew. But Sukuna. Now, admittedly, I saw. Gosh darn it, I meant to respond back. So I saw Flame comment on the live reaction. You can check it over on Patreon for those $1 a month. You can remember for those $3 a month. I still need to talk to him about Sukuna's characterization in the back of the chapter. So I need to make sure I can contact with him. I'll probably try to do that right after the review. I'll make sure I go back and comment back to him and then contact him on Discord. But with it being the case, I've been flipping back and forth how I feel about this specific bit of Sukuna characterization. The end of it, the last line he says, I am 100% fine with. And I like the last choice he makes. But this is something I've still been flip-flopping on. I waited so long, I've had so many thoughts, and in the end, I think I like it more than I dislike it. But of course, naturally, let me explain the negatives first. Of course, this is Jujutsu Kaisen, where everything's fueled by the negatives. Sukuna essentially trying to rationalize Megami giving up. It's not. Here's the thing. It's not meant to be begging, and very particularly, he doesn't use a single exclamation point. He's literally kind of just asking and reminding Megami of all the terrible things that he is either directly responsible for, indirectly responsible for, or, that. Like, I'd say it more, but really it is just that and that. And obviously it's all that Sukuna's responsible for through Megami and Yuji. But still, all that is in a way drawn back to Megami. And the fact that Sukuna brings this all up in an attempt to keep Megami in the darkness, I think is important. Right? Because it kind of explains how Sukuna thinks. Once again, I've been saying this for months now, but the Shinjuku Showdown kind of is the Heian era flashback. I haven't said it like that before. What I've said typically is that the Shinjuku Showdown has been explaining everything about Sukuna's character in different ways, through different aspects, and different parts of the fight. But the way I say that now is the Shinjuku Showdown basically is the Heian era flashback, as it's likely very similar to what happened then, except Sukuna actually lost this time. But with that being the case, it kind of shows us how Sukuna views things. He thinks he did everything right. Like, ultimately, in prepping Megami for the vessel, he's flabbergasted, bamboozled, blown away that suddenly, out of nowhere, Megami Fushiguro, in his eyes, is like, oh, BT dubs, by the way, would actually like to live. Don't mind me, I'm gonna take the body bag, babe, bro. Thank you real quick. He is just shocked and a bit confused. Now, of course, the more analytical and logical side of this is lost once you go from his original Heian era face to this more monstrous conglomerate. This looks less like a being that's asking purely for analytical reasons and more so something that's like jarring and jeering at Megami, desperate for him to give up. And notably, it's the next page that really throws it into even more disarray for me. Because Megami says this: why are you so desperate. One of Sukuna's fingers is still out there. If the way to become a cursed object is set, and Itadori pulls you out of me, you die. Plus, resonance isn't always good for you. If 19 fingers disappear, the last one probably can't carry on your soul. But I'm relieved to see that even you fear death. I've never intended to live a normal life. The world is full of people besides myself. Once more, I think I'll live for others. Now, on the Megami side of things, I am perfectly fine with that characterization. 100%. The idea that maybe Fushiguro, since he's kind of been forced to be a stagnant character since 50 chapters ago, it makes perfect sense to me that he's still kind of going by his old ideal set. Because unfortunately, Megami's character development was kind of hard stopped by Sukuna. It does happen. While we were starting to see a new version of Megami, a darker version of Megami, a Megami more similar to his father towards the end of his Culling Games fight, or even really towards the start of it, only reinforced by the end of it, I still think, ultimately, him, ironically enough, regressing, yet progressing in the idea of living for others, but instead of living for Sukuna, he's living for Yuji, living for Nobara, living for every other single innocent person who would suffer under the rule, or the existence, really, because we call Sukuna the king. His title is the King of Curses, but he's not really ruling anything. He's just, doing crazy stuff. He'd start the murder if he had the chance. So, Megami still decided to live for others. I think it's neat. It's a cute way, and it's a smart way to have a character who didn't really have the time to develop go through some development through a shifting of their perspective. I like that. I think that's slick. I just don't like the idea that even for a moment, Ryoben Sukuna genuinely did seem to almost rely on fear. And the reason I say it's fear, the reason I say it's inspiration, is not just because Megami says so. Because obviously, Megami is his own individual person, it's all about perspective. It's specifically the way Sukuna's drawn here. He very seriously looks shocked, bamboozled. He very seriously looks desperate. He's jarring, he's jeering. This isn't purely analytical. It is fear. And half of me is okay with that, because I've been the one pushing a narrative for a while now. That in the end, Ryoben Sukuna always has been, always will be, forever shall be human. And thusly, the most natural thing that all humans, for the most part, innately fear is death. We like living, because it's the one thing we don't fully know about. We have ideas, we have thoughts. There are many different thoughts and ideas of what happens after we cease living, and what happens before we're living. And not the birth thing, but before the conception thing. We have ideas, but ultimately, until someone can scientifically prove it, that's all they are. And naturally, Sukuna himself has long since consigned himself to the void. He knows it's going to happen. He even tells Kashimo that. As Kashimo asks him, doesn't it get boring? And Sukuna's like, I'll be for real. It kind of doesn't. There are many unique different flavors of humans that will entertain me and dance across my taste buds until I die. So, he knows death is just a part, but he didn't want it to be this soon. And seeing his reaction like that, even as he takes on a more and more monstrous and less humane form, I do think that's nice. But it's Sukuna. And this is where, the glaze, the Sukuna slopper in me is fighting against, regular character analysis me. There are all different types of me's. There's the wait one second. There's the Sukuna slopper. There's the, hold on. Let me move you. I did not move you, I dropped you. And let me move you fellas. There's the Gojo Glazer in me. And then there are many other types, and they typically tend to interfere with the raw character analysis side of me. So Sukuna showing fear, a good thing. A further elaboration on his humanity further gets to show another side of Sukuna, which is what I think the Shinjuku Showdown is all about. Showing how he thinks, showing how he acts, showing his mentality, and showing how he would react in different scenarios, in different situations, to different phenomena. So I overall am positive. I kind of just don't like how it implies that Sukuna... That's the thing. I think overall, I'm 100% more positive. I'm more positive. Because, ultimately, the humanity of Sukuna has kind of been the thesis that Yuji Todori himself was trying to prove. So Sukuna really did go out all stoic and robotic, fine, kid. Took you long enough. Deuces. Then I think it would feel a little bit more inorganic and less human. So I'll take it. I'll take it despite the conflict. I'm still gonna talk to them. I'll see if I can get that Cola video going. But that's something else. I do want to talk more about that. But that aside, Ryomen Sukuna is stripped from Megami Fushiguro. Now, the stripping itself is interesting. First things first, I do love that Yuji's domain is just so huge. Like, that thing's gargantuan. I have no idea what that boy was cooking. No wonder he didn't have any RCT to heal himself. That barrier is massive. Like, basically, I think it's the biggest barrier we've seen? Question mark, quotation mark? Because I think technically barrier size, the smaller it is, the more refined it is. So it makes sense that Yuji's is so big. Because I'm trying to think, the three-way domain wasn't actually that big. All the way back in Sendai. Gojo's domain wasn't that big when we saw it from the outside. I think only in the anime, but I think we may have seen it in the manga as well. We never got to see the scale of Dagon's domain. Megami just breaks in. The only domain that seems to be anywhere near to this scale, because this is just traditional domain shell, I think it is literally the Giga domain that Gojo expanded, which is half a feat for Yuji and half of not a feat for Yuji, because we know the scale thing that Gojo did was specifically not to encapture Malevolent Shrine, but ultimately to just stretch out and then slurp it back down. Meanwhile, Yuji never did the slurp back down process. He just did the huge domain process, which I do think is neat. And we see it shatter. Very particularly, I'm not sure what shatters it, whether it's Yuji himself, sort of like doing a Yuta approach where he just shatters it for the sake of it, but it shatters and Yuji lands that one final blow to Megami. Now, I will admit, the Black Flash was an uppercut. Why does Megami get sent flying that way? I don't know. If anything, then it should have just been this. It should have been like one of Yuji's more iconic punches where he, at least I remember that gif from the anime where he's like, he pulls back and then he does that if you're going to do that. But you can clearly see he's in the uppercut position. I have no idea why Megami goes flying backwards this way. I think it's mainly for paneling reasons. I know that's a weird thing to play it on, but like, especially considering he's still in that pose, I straight up think it's paneling reasons, because I don't think he like, I don't know, like, elbowed Megami, he punched him. But Megami gets knocked out, he gets sent flying. I'll admit, this in-between state is very, very nice. I like the look of it. It's an interesting way to show the variation between incarnation and initial. Notably, this is likely only the case for Sukuna. We never got to see any of the other incarnated sorcerers, incarnate. We kind of just met Urume as Urume. We kind of just met Uro as Uro, met Ryu as Ryu, met Kashimo as Kashimo, met Reggie as Reggie. So we don't know what their incarnation processes look like, but it's interesting to see that the physicality, the extra muscle mass, and the extra mass that was Sukuna is literally extra mass. Like, it's raw energy that sort of coiled around Megami's base body, readjusted it, reapplied it, and then manifested it as Sukuna, showing that all the original Megami still somewhat existed inside. The only interesting thing, though, is that the white leaves Megami's hair. So it wasn't like full flesh suit, like, literally Megami was like sealed inside on some Attack on Titan type beat where like maybe if you were to strip back some of Incarnate Sukuna's flesh you would have seen Megami's arm underneath, because the hair changed, which implied his facial structure did change. And as we'll see later, Megami does have scars from being the vessel of Sukuna, so it is heavily implied that some mutation is there, but a lot of the manifestation of Sukuna ends up turning out to be this interesting weird glob of semi-solid energy, cursed energy. And we see as Meguna or Sukuna screams in agony as he's ripped apart from Megami. Straight, actual, genuine pain. Now, this in itself is actually kind of interesting. A lot of people, for a while, especially as we got closer and closer and closer, I saw this like sort of spike up around 264, definitely in 265, and even a little bit in 266 after it got even more dire for Sukuna. A lot of people were hoping that he would incarnate as a curse. Like, hypothetically, if he was liberated from Megami, he'd turn into a curse. And I will admit, considering how masterful his control over cursed energy is and how masterful his control over the soul is, I'm kind of shocked he can't take a semi-solid form. Right? Like, notably, when he's stripped away from Megami, you would think the remainder of all that excess cursed energy would kind of just whoop, or like sort of maybe kind of do like a dwarf star thing where it expands and then suddenly contracts. And maybe you argue that is what this is, but specifically he starts to burn pretty much immediately, like he's weak to the sun or something. That I don't fully get. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that a cursed Sukuna or like a incarnated cursed Sukuna wouldn't mollywop all the cast. Vengeful cursed spirits, while they suddenly develop a weakness to RCT, are infinitely more lethal than their original counterparts. Look at Naoya, who was a high tier grade 1, and then look at Cursed Spirit Naoya. Imagine the raw power buff Sukuna would get if he became a curse on top of his already insane base stats. But even with that being the case, I do kind of wish, and this is something you're going to hear me say a couple times, I do kind of wish it was more clearly laid out why. Like Megami says, if you're stripped from me, then you won't be able to maintain yourself, but why not? Why couldn't he just turn himself into a cursed object? Clearly, once again, he's in semi-solid form. We know he knows how to do it. Does he literally specifically need that physical piece? Something to bind himself to? Why don't he do it to like a rock? I guess because he's not physically attached to the rock? I don't know. It's then because he does manifest as a mouth, eye, and fingers. Like, there is a being there. It just burns away so quickly. And once again, this implies, does it confirm? No, but it implies that Yuji was doing actual soul damage to Sukuna, not attacking the barriers. Because if he was attacking the barriers, he would just separate Sukuna, the soul, the amalgamation of cursed energy. And once again, that should turn into a cursed spirit, unless I'm tweaking. But I may be tweaking? That's the thing, I don't know. I get why he wouldn't innately become a cursed spirit, like naturally. Because to become a cursed spirit as a sorcerer, you need to be slaughtered by non-jujutsu means. Like, remember the reason Naoya became a cursed spirit is because Maki's mama was like, and just immediately with regular cadaver. Cadaver? Why did I say cadaver? But a regular cadaver. But Sukuna's getting punched apart by cursed energy fists. But I don't know. The immediate burning of Sukuna feels strange. Maybe that's just what happens to all souls that are not innately bound to a body, and maybe that's why they had to be stored in objects? I don't know. Once again, we never got, like, the hardline rules of transfer. The only hardline rules we can assume is that I guess you do need a physical piece of a body in order to bind yourself to. And if you are, no matter how powerful you are, considering this Sukuna should still be very, very powerful, if you do not have a physical form to immediately bind yourself to, you will immediately burn up. I suppose. Once again, not many explanations. The vagueness is kept vague for a reason, presumably, so Geki doesn't have to follow too many hard set rules, but it does lead to this whole conclusion of Sukuna feeling a little bit weird. The stripping away itself, once again, though, I am fine with, and I'm even fine with what Sukuna's reduced to. Naturally, Blob Kuna has gotten a lot of memes, especially in comparison to 236. We're in 268 now compared to 236, a 32 chapter gap? 32 chapter gap in the making. No, a 32 chapter gap between Gojo and Sukuna, and a lot of people have naturally been comparing the states that the two ended up in. For the symbolism of Sukuna's final form, quote unquote, or at least the form where he's recognizable as a being and not like a lump of cursed energy, I love it. Specifically not for just the fact that it's pathetic. Naturally, he's an eyeball and a mouth. But I personally believe if you were to strip Sukuna down to his most core fundamentals, that's what he is. He's an eye that observes everything and a mouth that consumes everything. He sees something interesting, he wants to consume it. Typically, that takes the form of characters. The consumption takes the form of battle. But he also just likes to look and eat. This is Sukuna. If you strip away all the raw power, if you strip away the individuality, if you strip away the physical form, the physical vessel, that's Sukuna. An eye and a mouth. Observation and consumption. That's all Sukuna is. I like that thematic imagery. That I really, really like. The other thing that I really, really like is the comparison between himself and Gojo. Satoru Gojo ultimately got a twisted yet happy ending. In a sense. He was always lonely. He never got people. People never got him. He was a flower to be observed, or he was taking care of flowers and observing them. That's all he ever had. Ryoma Sukuna is the first other gardener to show up and finally chop him down. And thusly, he got to be liberated. Of course, was it very painful? Yeah, he got literally bisected. But still, he was liberated. And then he got to reunite with all the people that he cared for in the past. Suguru Getsu, Nanami Kento, Haibara, the maid, and what was her name? Riko Amanai. And even Toji. The original guy who made him feel something in the first place all those years ago. Or at least in terms of like lethality and stuff like that. He got to have a happy ending, even though the happy ending resulted in death. It's simple as that. But Ryoma Sukuna, while Satoru Gojo was able to perish in his own body, with a smile on his face, being praised by the one person who made him not feel alone in the world, look who Sukuna has to greet him. Not a Arume, not Big Jaku, not even a fancy afterlife flash. No. He's just met with the boy who he tortured. The boy whose life he ruined. The boy who is him. The boy who is all that Ryomen Sukuna despises. Instead of being met with any sort of happy vision or anything of that sort, or even a goodbye from a person Sukuna would actually deem magnificent and someone Sukuna would genuinely care about, someone who cleared his skies. No, it's Yuji Itadori. The mess. The beast. Looking very similar, in fact, to how Sukuna looked when he initially defeated Satoru Gojo. Beaten. I'm sorry, that was a fly. Beaten. Battered. Battle damaged. Horrid. And Ryomen Sukuna knows what happens, so he doesn't even get an explanation like Gojo did. But we see Yuji looking down on him just as Sukuna looked down on Gojo, and Yuji offers this. So, what's it gonna be? Sukuna. Free Fushiguro, and I'll spare you if you return to me. Sukuna, you are me. We were born with the burden of a curse, and the monster you became was up to luck. But I had my grandfather. Sukuna, let's do it again. Not to curse someone, but to live with someone. Even if no one else accepts it, I'm willing to go on living with you. I've got to compliment you with how complete you are in acting the fool, Yuji Itadori. But do not dare to insult me, for I am a curse. And then he fades away. So, I feel no issue with that characterization of Sukuna. Because ultimately, what did Yuji Itadori offer? He said, hey, broski, I'm extending my hand. I'll nibble on you right now. You can refuse with me right now. I will eat that last finger right now. We can be together forever. We can live. I will give you the second chance at life. I understand it now. I've achieved my enlightenment now. I understand that ultimately, Ryomen Sukuna, you're human too. And Leslie, you deserve a better chance than what you got. You were born in a rough situation, in a rough time, and ultimately we are the same, for we are both human. Not just because of our links, but because of our very natures. And Leslie, I'm giving you the chance to come with me. But Ryomen Sukuna, despite being reduced to something that literally could not even stand, stood on business. He despises one person in this world. The one other person that had an unbreakable idea. The one other person who opposed him in every way. The one person who Ryomen Sukuna, for one reason or another, could not break. And refused to break until everyone else was broken around him in order to break Yuji. If he were to truly be entirely human and do anything to preserve his own life, he would have agreed with Yuji. He would let Yuji nibble and incarnate in him. But no, Ryomen Sukuna stood on business. He was like, no, I'm not going to do that, dog. And don't underestimate me, for I am a curse. Now, I'm assuming this is like, gosh darn it, fly. But I'm assuming this is like, not like literal curse. Because, like, dog, we went through this whole thing about how you're human, buddy. Lots of it, you are not a curse. But ultimately, and it's interesting, the comparisons. In the original translations I was reading, he said, do not underestimate me, for I am a curse. Meanwhile, in this one, he says, do not dare insult me, for I am a curse. But hey, John translated this chapter. And don't get me wrong, I can't read a lick of Japanese. Katakana or I forget what the other one is. I think it starts with an H. I cannot read a lick of Japanese. But still, it's interesting. One more so implies Sukuna's return in some way, shape, or form if Yuji lets his guard down. Meanwhile, this one's just like, dude, how dare you think I will stoop to the level of begging for your help? I would legit rather die. Legit rather die. So, I respect that. That perfectly fine for Sukuna's characterization. It's the perfect way for him to go out, specifically in the hands of the person he hated the most, despised the most, and refused to acquiesce for. Beautiful. I'll say one thing though. I ultimately, while I appreciate Yuji's culmination, I appreciate his thesis, as that's what this is, right? If you remember, this is essentially the exact thing that Mahito did to Yuji way back when. It's why Mahito and Sukuna work so well as villains for Yuji in particular, because they both propose theses, and Mahito's thesis ends up inspiring Yuji's thesis. I can't say thesis to save my life, but Mahito's thesis ends up describing and beginning Yuji on his path to his own thesis about him and Sukuna's relationship, and ultimately the proving of each other's theses comes from the defeat or triumph that comes at the hands of Yuji Chidori. Ultimately, Mahito, while he lost the battle, in a way he won the war. He got Yuji to agree with him. The last thing Mahito heard was, "I am you." Of course, Mahito didn't want to hear that, because he didn't want to get his cheeks clapped. He definitely feared death, and would have done who knows what. He would have fused with Yuji right then and there if Yuji had offered it to him, if he was further awakened, if he was further liberated as he is now. But he didn't have that chance. He had Mr. Fine, your thesis is right, I'm going to go with it. By the way, I'm going to clap your cheeks. That's what Yuji went with then. Now, Yuji Chidori brought up the idea that we are the same. You and I are both human. And thus we have equal value, as all humans have equal value. And ultimately, now through a further understanding of you and your history, I do believe that we could come to some sort of acquiescence as long as you return to me. I will spare you. This is the right you have, simply because you are human, in spite of your heinous acts committed upon me, my friends, my own body, and many, many more. All that, beautiful. And how he proved it to Sukuna by overcoming him, beautiful. Of course, with the help of many others. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that Yuji alone overcame Sukuna. It literally took the entire verse. The only living characters that didn't show up, at least living characters that have names that we know of, Uro. That's it. And maybe the other Culling Games players, but I don't think they knew. So, like, legit, Uro. And even then, she literally got fear hacks by 15 Finger Sukuna. I'm not expecting her to show up. But with that being the case, that is it. Everybody else showed up. Even Charles showed up, even though he didn't fight. But, like, he showed up and gave a rib. That's more than most. Momo showed up. She didn't do anything. Panda didn't show up. But we'll talk about that later. But ultimately, I bring all this up and the appreciation of it to say that I wish Yuji didn't give Sukuna a choice. Like, one of the overarching things about Sukuna is that he's always had freedom of choice. Like, ultimately, he's the one who chose to incarnate into 20 Fingers. He's the one who chose to be a monster instead of some sort of benevolent deity. He's the one who decided to wield Malevolent Shrine and not Benevolent Shrine. He's the one who decided to be greedy. He's the one who decided to take Megumi's body. He's the one who decided how to slaughter Sasuke Gojo. He's the one who decided that he's going to torture literally everybody Yuji loves and knows about before he ends up taking his life. He's always had the option of choice. And I think, in a way, Yuji just letting Sukuna go like this, it's like, dare I say, it's like letting him get off scot-free. I think the ultimate punishment for Sukuna, and he knows it too, the ultimate humiliation for Sukuna, and he knows it too, and I think Yuji knows it too, would be sealing Sukuna back inside of Yuji. That'd be it. That'd be it. The way the chapter talks about it, it's like, oh, don't worry. Everything's gone now. I think that's very specifically showing the fact that Sukuna will not return. What the heck? What the heck? I think that's specifically showing the fact that Sukuna will not return. That final finger is basically useless. And I swear, hold on. I'm about to do something absolutely devious and diabolical. I'm about to just break the editing fourth wall. Editing me, I'm sorry. I'm doing this for the sake of the Sarate. And you know, if it's for the sake of the Sarate, then it has to be worth it, right? Editing me. But let's see. Let's take a look at a reading rainbow. I could have sworn this man threw up fingers in 267. Hold on. Let me go back. 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 But ultimately, let me just make sure of one last thing. I'm gonna just do a little something. Let me look. No, not this. Where? It was earlier. I could have sworn he hurled up some fingers. Or am I tweaking? Aren't these fingers? Am I nuts? Am I stupid? I may be stupid. I could have sworn these are fingers. Someone tell me. Are these fingers or are these not? What are these? Is it his teeth? They look like fingers. And once again, it reminds me of when he hurled up fingers before. And he makes a sound. I could have sworn he hurled up fingers here. The reason I bring this up is because isn't this 1, 2, 3-ish Sukuna fingers? The 3 that Ume got him? So like, couldn't they carry on his whole? Aren't there technically 4 Sukuna fingers left? Because he throws these up and then he never eats them again. Like, look, like he doesn't bite down, he doesn't pick them up, he double gut punches Yuji, but he never re-eats the fingers. Unless I'm tweaking. So like, what, like, aren't these fingers still in play? Like, Megumi says there's only one left. Yuji pretends there's only one left. Sukuna seems to act on the assumption there's only one left. I swear these are fingers. If these are not fingers, please let me know. It's 267, 5 pages from the double spread. at the very end of the chapter. I swear these are fingies. Oh, where are they? I swear these are fingies, and he never eats them again. If these are not fingies, correct me. But back to 268. Yeah, I kind of wish Sukuna got like actual punishment, actual retribution. And here's the thing, right? Is I think ultimately it would. I get why it would contradict Yuji's character arc though, because now he's all about the freedom of humanity and the freedom of choice. Even if he cannot fully understand who is good and bad, even if he cannot fully understand the idea of who is wrong and right, even if he fully understands that what his ideals are may be wrong, but they are simply human. For that, they have the right to exist, just as Sukuna has the right to exist to make his own choices. I do get that. I don't think Sukuna should have gotten away. I guess it's bad to say that death is pretty much scot-free. But in comparison to the punishment that Sukuna could have lived, that Yuji Todori had full reign and capability to force upon him, I think he should have taken away that choice. And once again, it'd be the ultimate insult to injury. And I get why not, though. That's something that's a personal thing for me. What do you guys think, though? Do you like that Yuji, in the end, gave Ryoma Sukuna the choice to be free, the choice to fade away, the choice to give up his life? Or do you think, like me, and low-key wish that Yuji Todori just... and then the marks reappeared, and then he fully incarnated, but once again, Sukuna was just prisoner. Unable to do anything but watch Yuji Todori live out the rest of his days as a happy man. Let me know. Could be interesting. I may make a video talking about it, but it wouldn't be too long of a video. It wouldn't be too complex. But still, let me know. But with it being the case, I may actually make that the community poll. I'm struck my own beer thinking about that. But with it being the case, another thing I do like symbolically, as someone pointed out, this is not a me thing. Someone pointed this out in the comment section of the initial spoiler discussion, I do believe. Yuji Todori holds Sukuna in a regular human hand and a clawed hand. Of course, while I still don't like the implementation of the gauntlets, since they never got an explanation, and I don't think we ever will get one until, like, maybe the fan books. The idea that the man and the monster can both exist, the calamity and the human, the tornado and the beast, all can coexist, and Yuji Todori being the reflection of Ryoma Sukuna is the culmination of that existence, the clawed hand and the human hand, both scarred by battle. That I do like. Once again, it shows Yuji Todori's enlightenment, his transcendence, and his reaching of the level of Sukuna, in terms of ideologically, and overcoming him, as his form is still stable, while Ryoma Sukuna's literally fades away in his hybrid hands. That? Gorgeous symbolism. I like that. I like that a whole lot. This back part of the chapter, especially with my, like, final say on this whole section, and my more appreciation for Sukuna's humanity, in spite of the fact that I feel like it seems slightly out of character, considering we have this fully in character mode for Sukuna here, I can take it. I can 100% take it. These, I'm going to say it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These 9 pages are pretty much perfect. I would change very little about them. The only thing I would hypothetically do is give Sukuna his own afterlife scene, just to wrap it up and, like, do one last culmination with him. It doesn't have to include Big Jock. It can only just be him and Yuji, like, walking. Like, honestly, if it be them walking along I forget the specific river from mythology, but, like, there's, like, a river of death. And, like, Yuji asking Sukuna these questions as they walk alongside of this, and Sukuna deciding to wade into the water and walk away, and then fade off, and then we cut back to seeing the Blob Kuna fade into the afterlife. That's, like, the only thing. But even then, that's to me just wanting more final Sukuna interactions, because I like the character. Shock horror. So overall, first 9 pages, absolutely fantastic. Now, let's get harsh. Ultimately, while I would love to glaze the entirety of this chapter, I do have opinions. So, let's do a quick read-through of this. It's all over. Yep, looks like that. Looks that way. So, now what? Nothing. It's the end. If Sukuna lost, it's because he was a fully fleshed curse. John, stop that. But it's a fully fleshed curse. It's not because you guys were strong. You merely got lucky. Being born 1,000 years later saved your lives. Huh, I merely got lucky. That's the ultimate praise for a guy like me. I guess you're right. And then Urume offs themselves. Now, I'm going to make a full video talking about why I want to see this fight, but if you made it 34 minutes into this review, clearly you would like to hear some of my thoughts, and I'm here to give them to you. I think this is poor. I think this is rushed, and I think it's bad. Now, you may be wondering, or at least you may be thinking, or even preparing to type, because I've seen it in multiple comment sections across multiple platforms that I run, and I haven't even checked other comment sections. I know there's one particular content creator, Restless Gambler, who was not happy with this as well. And that's because his entire platform is based around Akari, or at least his PFP is. It's based around Jackpot Akari, that one famous panel that everybody knows. But with it being the case, the reason why I am so sad that we didn't get this fight on multiple levels is one, the hypothetical character interactions. I'm sorry. I believe it was 246 that actually started to lay out a genuinely interesting dynamic between Urume and Akari, and started to actually explore Akari more as a character. You're looking at a guy who loves Kashimo versus Akari. One of my favorite fights in the series. But one thing I'll give, it explores simultaneously the deepest and most shallow depths of Akari's character, in the sense that he's willing to risk it all, he likes a good gamble, and he's willing to punch and kick. That's fine. But we started to dive into Akari's humanity, or lack thereof, and his opinion on others. Akari was starting to be fleshed out more than the gambling man. And hey, he's one of our heavy hitters. He's a character who's been hyped up since darn near the start of the series, in the same breath as Yuta Ogotsu. Naturally, I wanted to learn more about his character, and in a shonen battle manga, the best way to learn more about a character is them in battle. And Urume themselves goes out of their way to specifically note Hikari Kinji is strange, for he is different than the sorcerers of the modern day, for he seemingly has no regard nor fear for his or others' humanity. Seeing that further explored, and seeing further what Urume meant, and comparing him to previous sorcerers of the past, and comparing him to the sorcerers of the modern day, seeing that would have been interesting. Elaborating on that, fleshing out instead of just laying it there as a carrot on a stick, that would be interesting on the character front for Hikari alone. Urume, perfect, a literally divine way to sear into the past, to look into the past, to get to learn more about Sukuna, why some people worship Sukuna, why some people care for Sukuna, why Urume was a character in the first place. That could all be done specifically within their battle, because notably every single time Urume has appeared prior, it's been to either wipe the entire cast or end a battle. Think of it back in Shibuya, think of it in the first incarnation of Meguna. Urume is always there as a fight ender or a fight cleaner. To actually have a battle that fully covered them, their motivations, their past, their history, would have been neat. Much more neat than Takaba's past and history. I'll be completely honest with you, I still could not care less, for the most part, about that character. I like him, but he's literally not even in my top 30. That may sound crazy to say, because you may think, Pencil, can you even name 30 JJK characters? And yes, I can. I just won't do it right here. Wait for the reviewed, once the series is over, you know that revamped character tier list is going to come out. I'm going to give it 3 weeks, I'm going to think a whole bunch, I may do a reread or two, and then I'll do that tier list. But I can tell you right now, Takaba's not even in the top 30. That may be Kenny bias, but still, it's there. But Urume has one of the most interesting past and motivations of any of her antagonists, and was a perfect window into a past that everybody and their mama, until now, because now suddenly everyone's okay with not seeing it, everybody and their mama wanted to learn more about the Heian era. Everybody and their mama wanted to learn more about the motivations behind Sukuna, why certain people followed Sukuna, and how Urume got so powerful and got into that position. Other than the idea that, oh, they just cook people. Neat. More elaboration, more context for that would have been interesting. Once again, just on a character level. And that is good enough for me. Half the reason I like certain fights in JJK is because of the character interactions. You wanna know why I love Ryu? Because Ryu's a cool character. You wanna know why I love Yuta? Because Yuta's a cool character. And he's deep. You just gotta look for it. You know why I love Yuji versus Choso? Good character fight. You wanna know why I love Yuji versus Mahito? And, well, Yuji and Toto versus Mahito? Good character fight. The possibilities are there. You can always expand further on the character. And it doesn't even have to be long. Kashimo versus Sukuna, while it was an absolute raffle stomp, still one of my favorite fights in the series for how much it fleshes out Kashimo. And how much it fleshes out Sukuna. Two characters who I really didn't think were going to get fleshed out at the time. Both of them having further elaboration on their journeys perfectly in that 2-chapter fight. So Geiki can work the magic quickly if they want to. Now, for the next thing, and the main thing that I've seen people excuse this for, the fight would have been boring. Because it's just a guy who can punch and kick and regenerate, and it's just a person with ice powers. Now, for all those who say that, I want to know what you think about Hikari versus Kashimo as a fight. Do you think that one's boring? And if you do, that's fine. I get it. Makes perfect sense. Do you think Ryu versus Yuta is boring? If you do, I get that. Makes perfect sense, I guess. Do you think that every punch and kick merchant fight with slight extracurricular abilities in JJK is boring and would not be worth showing? If you do, then you shouldn't have enjoyed any of the Shinjuku Showdown, because a lot of it was Sukuna punching and kicking and occasionally throwing out slashes. But I'm not going to sit here and say the Shinjuku Showdown was boring. I'm not going to sit here and say that Hikari vs. Kashimo was boring. I'm not going to sit here and say any hand-to-hand fight was boring. Because it's not. Because Gege Akutami is a very good action mangaka. And thusly, if they wanted to make the fight interesting when drawing it, they would have. Some of the most interesting choreography in the entire Shinjuku Showdown very specifically came from the short spurt of Hikari versus Uraume that we saw. Seeing Hikari slam Uraume through buildings, seeing the different ways that Uraume manifested their ice, either in large bursts or specific pillars and spears, was already getting interesting. And that was well before they started to go into their full power, which we never got to see. And of course, this all belies the idea that Hikari doesn't suddenly either develop or develop something over the time skip. You'll be wondering, well, what could he develop? Cursed energy projection. Launching it out. Anyone can do it, apparently, as long as they have it. Hikari never did. What does the 777 jackpot do? We have no clue. Maybe it's nothing, but it could have been something. The idea that the fight would have been boring to watch comes from a lack of faith in Gege Akutami's ability to draw an interesting battle. And personally, while I love JJK for its characters, the second thing I love it for is its fights, and I do have faith in Gege as an action mangaka to draw an interesting battle, even if it sounds mundane on the surface. If I were to describe Hikari versus Kashimo to you in mundane terms as one guy who's immortal and one guy who punches and kicks really, really well, who's really, really strong, and he can use lightning every maybe 10 hits or so and every maybe 10 pages, it would sound boring. But choreography-wise, it's one of the most interesting fights in the series. I'm sorry, I missed again. But, so no, I'm sorry. That's a poor excuse. The idea that it would be boring. Unless you want to tell me every fight in JJK is boring, essentially. Because how many people have powers like Uraume? Joko? And Dagon? And Hanami? That's it. Are any of their fights boring? Do you find the Joko fights boring? When he's pulling out all these different levels of fire and magma and, I don't know, lava bugs. Did you think the Hanami fight was boring? Where they're manifesting all these different types of plants and unique variations of them? Do you think the Dagon fight was boring? Where he was pulling out all different types of fish and different varieties, backgrounds, and abilities? Uraume would have been like that. They have ice, one of the most versatile abilities, period, point blank. And Hikari Kenji had infinite potential to draw from since he had an entire month time skip, hypothetical ability to learn how to project cursed energy, hypothetical maximum taking. There's so many things that could have been done with this battle. But no, we skipped it. There's so much character work that could have been done with this battle. But no, we skipped it. There could have been so much historical exploration done with this battle. But no, we skipped it. I'll be honest with you. If you had to ask me what chapters of the Shinjuku Showdown I would sacrifice to get the rest of this fight, Sukuna versus Kusakabe, I would not have cared to see that. LaRue and Miguel, I think their need would not have cared. You could have removed it. Dare I say, no, I'm not going to say Maki, but like legitimately, there are chunks you could remove. And I'm sorry, if Takaba, a modern sorcerer, the gag character of the manga, with the super OP power, got multiple chapters of background exploration, and an actual character, I think that Uraume and Hikari, two characters who have existed in the narrative and were hyped up much more than Takaba ever was, also deserved something more than this. And also, for the character work of this, I do agree that Uraume immediately offing themselves the second that Sukuna decided, or the second that Sukuna lost. Yeah, I can leave with that. I can rock with that. 100%. That makes sense. They have no other value in life. I wish we could have learned why. We don't know, and we never will. Unless, once again, fan books. It'll be way too late then. But, that makes sense. I'll give it that. Hikari Kenji being happy about being lucky? Yeah, that's all we know about the character, so it makes sense that he'd feel that way. That's fine. The characterization is fine. I just don't like what was lost because of it. This, in my opinion, is wasted potential. And here's the thing, right? Hikari goes down as a man with 0 real dubs to his name. He beat up on a high schooler who didn't want to fight back. He beat up on a farmer who also, well, he beat up on a mangaka who barely knew what they were doing. But I guess technically that's a dub for all the Hikari fans out there. Yeah, he beat Charles. And then he himself believes he didn't really beat Kashimo. And I personally believe Kashimo would still win if there wasn't water nearby. And obviously we know he wouldn't be a full power Kashimo, naturally. But he doesn't even beat Urume either. And I've seen the copium. I've seen people say that, oh, you see Urume? They're holding on to their neck with ice. And they stop doing that when Sukuna does it. Thusly, that means that ultimately Hikari knocked their head off at some point and they were holding on to it with no. The ice specifically starts appearing around their neck and keeps cracking and cracking and cracking and cracking and digging deeper into their neck until it literally removes their head. And plus, they have RCT. Why would they hold onto their head with ice? They healed the entire rest of their body, but they didn't heal their neck? Yeah, okay. And plus, if you decapitated, so sure they're dead. So no, Hikari never knocked their head off. Hikari sucks. He's garbage. No AP. No nothing. He's trash. One of the weakest characters in the series output-wise. At least based on what you've seen. The man's kind of worthless. Kind of booty meat. Couldn't give Hikari a single dub. And I know people are going to be like, well, Pencil, his entire thing is to stall. Okay. My entire thing is that I lose all my fights, but I win by decision. Does that sound fun? Does that sound interesting? Does that sound like a heavy hitter? Does that sound like someone in the same league as Yuta Okotsu, Yuji Tadori, heck, Monkey Zenin? Me personally, it doesn't. Hikari's not one of them. He's trash. That's very specifically because Gege decided to end the fight this way. So no, I don't like it. Characterization's fine though. Can't get mad at that. And in one other level, one thing I will give people, I've seen people make the argument these characters aren't that important. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I didn't think Takabo was that important either, though. But he got time. I think he's less important than these two characters, in spite of how important his role to the narrative ended up being. But he got time. These two, though, I do agree. They are not that important. I'll lean with that. I'll rock with that. But, of course, enough negativity. Let's move on to more, ultimately, neutrality. We have a time skip. How long? No idea. Is the calling game still active? No idea. Is Tengen inside Megami? No idea. None of this gets explained. I'm assuming we have 3 more chapters. They'll probably all get explained then. But, retroactively, it does make the pace of 268 extremely fast. You can check out more of my pacing discussion in the separate video I made about 268. It ended up being 30 minutes long. Look at how long this review already is. Can you imagine if I talked about the pacing more explicitly in this chapter? Or in this review? What would that be the case? Megami wakes up in a bed, presumably in Jujutsu High. I'm not sure if this is specifically his room. I don't think so. I think it's just a random room. But we see him ask what the heck Yuji and Nobara are doing as Nobara pops out the box. Funniest thing about this whole interaction is the idea that Yuji couldn't actually find a proper gift wrapping box and just grabbed a random box of cardboard and threw Kugisaki in it and like poorly tied a ribbon around it. Like legitimately, they didn't even rip the ribbon. I guess Yuji just straight up dragged it after taping a piece of it to the box to let Nobara out. And we see the trio reunited. Now, this does fulfill a prophecy. Why did I say it like that? This does fulfill a prophecy. Why did I say it like that? This does fulfill a prophecy. Thank you, body. This does fulfill a prophecy that Gege foretold long ago, where either one would live and the rest would die, or one would die and the rest would live. It seems like Nobara, Yuji, and Megami lived while Satoru Gojo died. And remember, the one thing I'm going to say, well, they don't talk about Sukuna for the rest of the chapter, at least not for the most part. Like I mentioned in that video a few months back, Satoru Gojo lost the battle, but he won the war. This is exactly what he wanted. He wanted a strong future that would be able to take care of itself and hold itself up. Now, of course, if Gojo didn't fight, then they would have lost, obviously. But still, he ended up winning the war. While Satoru Gojo's ideals did not die with him, Ryomen Sukuna's did. I do think it's poignant that the future lives on, entirely unhampered by the actions of Sukuna for the most part, and if anything, only made stronger by them. as we see, hey, we're planning a Kusakabe's Alive surprise. Oh, sorry. Hey, the hottest girl in class you thought was dead was alive? So I still don't, it feels, I don't know. Then again, I'm just not the biggest Nobara fan. I like the character, but I'm not the biggest Nobara fan. So that's probably why I feel so weird about this entire bubble of dialogue. Is it, for the Nobara fans out there, is this in character? I forget. I know she does praise herself for being attractive, but like, it's such a weird way to phrase it. But hey, you know, maybe Kiki's out of practice. It's been a while. But with it being the case, everyone's back. And everyone's fine. Like, notably, the worst that Megami got was his 2 new scars, where Sukuna's eyes formerly were. But that's about it. No brain damage from a limited void. None of his soul is harmed. His physical form is actually pretty much fine. No damage was done. Yuji Todori has no remnants of the Battle of Ryomen Sukuna. Some people thought he was going to permanently be out without an eye. Some people thought maybe his fingers would be permanently gone. But no, he's fully back. He still has some of the lingering injuries, very specifically, I believe his ear. Yep, his ear is still weirdly taped on, and I believe his pinky is still gone. Oh, actually, look, I think maybe his pinkies are still both gone. I think that sacrifice was permanent. So there we go. There are the lingering remnants of the battle from Ryomen Sukuna, because it's the pinky that Sukuna tore off in order to transfer to Megami, and it's the pinky he sacrificed to Rika, or the ring finger he sacrificed to Rika, in order for Yuta to get Shrine. So those are the only 2 remnants, but other than that, I say other than that, like, losing 2 of your fingers isn't huge. But still, it's relatively minor. There was a cost, but the benefit greatly outweighed the cost. The curse of Ryomen Sukuna, for all intents and purposes, is dead. And we see that now everything's basically back to normal, to a degree. To the point where they're all just sipping tea and moving on with their lives. I did cry a bit. I found out while I was inside Sukuna. Yeah. I guess I needed to be there. Yeah, you did, Nobara. But, well, shall we get to it? Huh? You already received these letters from Gojo. Now that we're all together, we can open them. Letters? Yeah, it's not like him. Imagining him writing them creeps me out. Ouch, that's mean. There are only 2. I don't have one. That's because I talked to him directly. Oh, you did? Well, let's do this. What'd he write? It's just info on where my mom is and what she's doing. Did you want to know that? Nope. I'm surprised he was able to find her. I guess I should have expected it. Whoa, did he make you a special grade? Fushiguro was actually laughing. I gotta know. Show it. Show it to me. Can I see it? Actually, it's a lot like Kugisaki's. Uh-huh. Oh. It's, kinda harsh. So why were you laughing? It's okay. Well, if you say so. Sorry, Megami, but your dad's a goner. I wasted him. My bad. Uh-oh. I gotta go see Maki and the others. Come with us, Fushiguro. So, I do want to just tackle this section. Once again, the characters being fine, I've grown softer on this as time has passed. I do think the overall just absolute casualness of it all and seeing none of the immediate aftermath of the Gojo versus of the Sukuna Gauntlet, the Shinjuku Showdown, does feel weird. Like, we spent time stewing in the aftermath of Shibuya. We did spend time doing that. We didn't just immediately cut away to Culling Games prep, but we kind of just do that here, I guess. Even though it's the end of the series, you think this would be the time for reflection, and we would get to see the reactions of everybody realizing that, oh, we did it. We actually overcame the most powerful sorcerer in history. You think that'd be nice to see, but once again, I kind of covered that more in the pacing video. And the specific letters, I've been softened on those too. For Kugisaki getting information she couldn't care less about, it makes sense. Once again, it's the issue of JJK and its pacing as an overall thing. Gojo didn't know Nobara, and Nobara didn't know Gojo. They were student and teacher. So all he can think of is, oh, maybe you care about your mom. Bam! Here's where she is. So it makes sense. He had nothing else really to say to her. They don't have a character bond. Not in extra materials, not in the main manga. So that makes sense. People have been trying to flip me around on this. The Megami letter. And I guess, legally speaking, people are right. Because, yes, Gojo, when he was a teenager, was very flippant about the idea that he slaughtered Megami's father and just kind of, not adopted him, but decided to pay for everything. But still, I don't know. I can excuse teenage Gojo just flippantly almost telling him. But then when Megami asked him to not do that, Gojo was polite enough to be like, fine, I won't. You can believe whatever you want to believe. So now an older Gojo suddenly deciding to ignore Megami's wishes and just informing him of that, ended up doing anything else. Like, this is all he had to say to Megami in case of his death. BT Dubs, I slaughtered your dad. Nothing else? Like, I get it. Once again, ironically enough, the connection between Megami and Gojo was never would be, and never could be, that deep. Because they weren't really father or adopted son. Like, while the fandom took the idea of Megami raising Gojo, or Gojo raising Megami, or really vice versa, for the memes of it, and ran with it, and I like that more than what we actually have in canon. In canon, there really is no relationship between these two other than student and sensei. And that's the only bit of personal information that Gojo would really know about Megami, or the only bit he would really care about. Sure, he could have done something else, but I guess this is fine. And that's how I feel about both letters, and that's how I feel about this back end of the chapter. It's fine. It's serviceable. It wraps up everything. I guess. Heck, it feeds into the chapter title. What's the chapter title called? It's called Settling Matters. Of course, it's called Finale in like the TCBs, but still, it's called Settling Matters. These are just matters to settle. Once again, it feels like this chapter does feel like, okay, we defeated Sukuna, check. We need to have Megami and Sukuna have the last conversation, check. We need Yuji and Sukuna to have the last conversation, check. We need Gojo to tell Megami about slaughtering his dad, check. We need Nobara to have interaction with the boys, check. And naturally, in the end, we need to address Yuta and his state. Everyone's gonna go get together. I guess I should apologize and say thanks. No, this isn't about that. Huh? It's about Okosu senpai. We have to save him. Yuta, you jerk! Oh, save him from them? Yuta's alive. Check. Or at least, in some state where he needs saving, quote unquote, but yeah, whatever. And don't get me wrong. I know there are only 3 chapters left, but like, it feels so procedural in a way that JJK sometimes is, but I feel like should be better handled for how long we've been building to it. Like, I'm not sure what's left of these 3 chapters, and maybe my opinion will retroactively change in 268 after the final 3 chapters are out, and I have the full context, and I get why Genki did it this particular way. But I don't know. I feel mixed, especially for how much I've come to love the first half of the chapter. Like I said, those first 9 pages are peak. Yeah, there's a reason you heard me go into such giga deep analysis on them in comparison to like these last couple pages where I'm like, okay, done. That's what it feels like. It feels like actual proper character exploration between the King of Curses and his 2 vessels versus, we're done. I don't know. And once again, as people have pointed out, and this is something I do somewhat agree on, though I still feel 50-50 on considering how much this affected all their lives. Technically, this is just another day at work. Sure, it's the King of Curses, strongest sorcerer in history, but it's just another day. Nothing really matters. Nothing ever mattered. It's a cycle. That's the whole point. Sorcerers always have to exist to slay curses. Curses will always have to exist to be slain by sorcerers. Roman Sukuna, as he acknowledges, is a curse, so you'd have to be slain by sorcerers eventually. Urume was the embodiment of a cursed object in a person that had to be slain by sorcerers eventually, or eventually slay themselves. Kinhaku was the most ancient curse, and just, we need to slay him. It's done. Bada bing, bada boom. Doesn't really matter. But it just feels so hollow. No purple, if you know what I'm talking about. That's the only reason why I feel a bit iffy. But still, in spite of all that, in spite of my rather blasé reaction to the end of the chapter, my vitriolic hatred that Panda gets to walk alongside those, even though he did genuinely nothing, for the back half of the chapter alone, I gotta say it's worthy. It still ultimately did wrap up Sukuna in what I feel like is an appropriate way. And the Shinjuku Showdown, just as much as it was Yuji's story, was Sukuna's story. And their story ends in a way that I appreciate, even if I would have done it slightly differently, because I'm a little bit more vindictive than Yuji is. That's about it. Still, overall, very, very well done. The rest of it, once again, I'm mostly indifferent to. I don't like Akari vs. Urume being skipped over entirely. I don't like Akari not winning, but specifically having his opponent off themselves and give up. I don't like that. for what that does for Akari and his reputation, and what it will forever be from this point on. But at the same time, what? It's 2 pages of a multi-page chapter. And the back end, once again, one thing I'll say, the reason I think I'm so blasé to this back chunk of the chapter is because I don't really know this trio as a trio. I like Yuji a lot. I've come to appreciate Megumi more, and I like Nobara. But specifically as a trio, it doesn't really feel as satisfactory as I feel like it should, but that may legit just be me. I know a lot of people are very happy to have the trio back, but the trio always kind of felt hollow because they were barely a trio. At least in my mind. They ran duos. They didn't really run trios. But there are extra materials, and I think it's just me. And also the fact that Nobara's been gone for so long. So, like, it is mostly a me thing. But overall, it still is a W chapter. However, of course, that's what I think. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor and leave at World's End. For all my Pirates of the Caribbean fans, leave at World's End in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a page down below where you can support me for as well as one month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the 33-minute live reaction to this very chapter, ad-free variations of all my videos, and if you become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, you have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below, where you can drop 5 beans for a short video, 25 beans for a long video, or any beans at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that other pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members: Sierra, Greyhound, Eternal Flame, NMA, Real Rare, Red Wolf 4765, Paris Arnold, Astro, Brandon Payne, and G Prosper. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons: Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Josh Brown, Igneal Lind, and A+A. And I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our $7 members: Autumn Mornings Lazo, Fine, Zombie Hunter, and Austin Wimberly. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our $10 members: Robbie Uchiha, Jay Warrior, and AZ Void. Then I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our $10 patrons: Overlord Zero, Joaquin Munoz, and Idemo Kami.
And I'd like to give the craziest, juiciest, most next-level, quadruple, sloppy, toppy, next-level superhuman in beyond this world kidney having thank you to our $100 patron, or that guy with a pencil tier patron, Calvin Elder.